Right. Good day, everybody. Hello. Morning. It's morning time right now. I'm going to be playing. This is Dragon Wolf here. Welcome to episode 4? Yes, since today's the 4th. Yeah, welcome to episode 4. Hey, welcome to episode 4. I'm pleased to have you here. Anyways, let's get in the truck, and I'm gonna turn on the news. Oh, hang on. Forgot. First person camera. Why do I keep going that one? Thank you. Now, we're gonna listen to some news. Yeah, we're gonna stop it when we talk tape though.
Hey there, it's Shamika here. I'm still out on maternity leave, but here's a conversation that really stuck with me. It's about memory, family, and our understanding of the human brain. I hope you enjoy it. This is In Conversation from Apple News. I'm Shamita Basu. Today, the story of Alzheimer's and one son's search for answers. For almost his entire life, Sandeep Jahar's father, Rem Jahar, had been a scientist.
One of his favorite statements to me growing up is non-science is nonsense.
Sandeep, who is a medical doctor himself, remembers his father spending long days in the lab, doing research and writing papers. He was a take charge kind of guy, always striving to succeed, and he loved spending time with his family, his 3 kids.
Cut fruit for us. That was like his thing. That was sort of his love languages.
It's such a Asian parent
Oh,
too.
so
The plate of cut fruit
Yeah,
pushed your way. But then, around 2013, Sandeep started to notice some worrying changes in his father. At first, he wasn't sure what was going on.
It's also night.
I would be puzzled that, man, you remember the partition of India. You remember the spelling bee where I won second place in 5th grade, but you don't remember what you had for lunch.
More and more, it seemed like his father's mind wasn't what it used to be.
Kept forgetting the code to the new safe that we bought. It was my mother's birthday in 1941. I kept telling Dad, it's just Mom's birthday, come on.
It's also Saturday.
Then, one day, Sandeep was taking a walk
this?
with his mom when she told him something alarming. His father had gotten lost driving home from the local mall, and rather than calling Sandeep or his brother who lived nearby, he stopped the car on a busy road and tried to flag down passing cars to ask for directions.
I said, well, that's not good. And then she stopped and said, do you think your father has Alzheimer's? And that was the first time anyone in the family had even mentioned the word.
They made an appointment with a neurologist, and his mother's intuition was right. These were the first signs that Sandeep's father had Alzheimer's disease. It was the beginning of a years-long journey that Sandeep writes about in his latest book,
Here's
My
the part
Father's
or the
Brain,
rest
Life
of
in
the
Shadow of Alzheimer's.
video.
It's an honest and unflinching portrayal of the challenges of caring for a sick parent, from doctor's appointments to disagreements about care with siblings, to coming to terms with how this particular illness was changing his father in ways Sandeep, as a cardiologist, even with all his medical training, didn't fully understand.
When I look back at the level of knowledge I had about dementia and Alzheimer's, it was really lacking. And I've been to medical school. I've done rotations in neurology. I've done a residency and a fellowship. But I didn't really understand what Alzheimer's was about.
Sandeep's book weaves between the intensely personal and the hard science. He told me it was important for him to learn exactly how Alzheimer's impacts the brain and why treatment has remained so elusive for some.
Dementia comes from the Latin dement, loss of mentation, loss of thinking. And there are several different types. Alzheimer's is the most common. Alzheimer's affects at least 6 million Americans, and that number will probably double or triple by the mid part of the century, so in the next 10 to 20 years. But right now, I would say Alzheimer's constitutes about maybe 3/4 of all dementia cases. So the main sort of the emperor of neurological disease and of dementia is Alzheimer's.
Can you explain what we know about what happens to the brain when you're experiencing Alzheimer's?
Yes. Alzheimer's typically starts in the part of the brain that is responsible for encoding memory. So short-term experiences that are typically episodic, like sitting down and having lunch, those perceptions and sensations that comprise that episode of life, they get indexed and manipulated in a part of the brain called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus then takes that experience and it replays it, typically over while you're sleeping. It creates sort of a long-term memory that then eventually gets housed in the part of the brain called the cortex. So when Alzheimer's affects the hippocampus, short-term memories become obliterated.
A little bit of science
Long-term
here.
memories that the hippocampus is already placed into the cortex, they remain relatively intact. So Alzheimer's typically starts in the hippocampus. It moves to the part of the brain that is responsible for emotional processing, called the amygdala. Those two parts of the brain are like 2 centimeters apart. So typically memory goes, emotional balance goes, patients
I'm
become
at work
volatile,
right now.
and eventually the disease spreads to parts of the brain that are responsible for self-awareness and recognizing impairment. You know, the brain has sort of this meta function, right? Like, I know that I'm here. I know that I'm talking to you. I know what I'm feeling. I know whether I'm capable of doing this or not. That kind of meta function starts to deteriorate later on in the disease. And so eventually my father lost the ability to understand that he was impaired.
While Alzheimer's severely affects a person's episodic memory, their muscle memory typically remains relatively intact.
So even in the late stages, Alzheimer's patients sometimes even play the piano, or they can dance, but they don't remember things. They don't remember episodes in their lives.
Sandeep could see how difficult and how different diseases of the brain could be, because at the same time as his father's mind was failing him due to Alzheimer's, his mother was struggling with Parkinson's.
My mother's Parkinson's really affected more of her motor function, but her episodic memory remained relatively intact. So she could remember when she bought a piece of clothing, but couldn't put it on. My father's the opposite. You know, he could still, until sort of the late stages, still dress himself, but he would have no idea where the piece of clothing came from, whether he bought it yesterday, or bought it 5 years ago.
Right.
So they had kind of complementary brain diseases.
Sandeep's mother died in 2016, and her death was really hard with his father, so much so that it seemed to accelerate his dementia.
My mother was cremated when her coffin was going into the furnace. My father ran toward the furnace to get into the fire with her. He was so distraught over this loss of his life partner. And, you know, after she died, he really became even more sort of socially marginalized. My mother was very sociable, and so my father relied on her sociability to have friends.
As is often the case.
Yes, yes. And, you know, he had certain sort of neurotic tendencies, and people sort of overlooked them because my mother was just such a fun person to be around. But after she died, you know, he kind of lost a lot of friendships. I think he was very lonely. And, you know, we know that loneliness affects the brain, and we know that widowhood actually has tremendous effects on the brain. It can worsen dementia, so that, you know, patients who have plaques and tangles in the brain, which are sort of these abnormal proteins that suggest Alzheimer's, when they have that and they become widowed, the decline in their cognitive function is manifold compared to patients who continue to have social lives and don't feel so lonely. And that's really sad, right? We live in a society that values cognition, the ability to process information. I mean,
Oh God, that's
we're
right.
just inundated with information, and there's a constant conversation. And if you can't process or add to that conversation, you become marginalized. And that's exactly what happens with patients with dementia, and that's what happened to my father. How do you have friends? Like when you meet up with a friend, what do you talk about? You talk about your shared experiences. You talk about your shared history. You know, remember when we did this, or remember when we went camping. Or if you don't remember those things, people run away. You know, and the sad part is that even family does, because we're all so busy, and caregivers can get so frustrated. I was not immune to that, and I have a lot of regrets over this. That we would talk about my father, and sometimes like he wasn't even there. I would say, you know, he's acting like a child now.
In front of him.
We would say that in front of him,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, you look back and you think, well, how did this happen? Why did I do this? Why did I feel this way? Why did we marginalize him? Obviously, we didn't mean to, right? But it didn't really matter. At some point, I became so biased, really, that I thought he was incapable of having normal thoughts. So when he would say things to me, I didn't, take them seriously.
Yeah. Actually, I want to read a little excerpt from the book, a short one. At some point you wrote, "No doubt I made him feel worse, lonelier than he already was. Not on purpose, of course, but it hardly mattered. Once he was labeled as having a brain disease, a label corroborated by my unforgiving interpretations of his conversation, he became to me a minor character in our family, a miniaturized version of his former self, isolated and confined to ever-shrinking boundaries, as I stared sadly at him from outside the cage." To me, this reads like such unflinchingly honest, but also really painful sort of admission of how it feels for you as a son to take care of a parent in this state. Why was it so important for you to be this honest? I know, and I could see it in your face even when you're speaking earlier about the sort of shame associated with feeling those feelings too.
You know, I wrote in the book that being elderly and sick in this country is terrifying. Caring for an elderly sick person in this country is a full-time job. And I believe that more today than when I first started caring for my father. Elder care in this country is extremely difficult. In India, as you know, there's no sort of government safety net, but there's a sort of social safety net, which is basically having sons.
Right.
You have the doctors go on and say, okay, that's the reality. You know, people want to have sons because they'll take care of them in their old age. Now, my parents had 2 sons, and they sort of assumed that we would take on that responsibility. In the United States, there's a little bit more government support, but there's also a lack of social customs that encourage caring for the elderly. So what ends up happening is that one person, usually a daughter or maybe a daughter-in-law, gets burdened with care, and so they can't pursue their own careers, and they become very fatigued and frustrated. And there are also huge economic implications to this, because government doesn't really provide for elder care. Out of the $200 billion that we spend on dementia, Medicare funds $11 billion. The remainder is families paying out of pocket. And, you know, we're a family of doctors. We had resources to hire people to help my father. I can't imagine. I still just can't fathom not having the resources, shouldering the burden entirely on yourself. It's mind-boggling, I mean, because it was so hard, even the way it was, with the resources that we had. If you don't have resources, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, you were able to get a live-in aid to live with your father, and you live close by, as you mentioned. You're brother also lived nearby. I mean, you write a lot in this book about sibling dynamic. I think this is going to be very familiar to a lot of people who ended up in this kind of situation where you've got more than one sibling's interests and opinions to sort of keep in balance. Can you tell us a little bit about how the three of you decided to go about decision making when it came to your dad?
I didn't want my father to go into a nursing home. That was incredibly important to me. And my siblings, my brother and sister, even though they loved my father equally, I know that they were more realistic. Said, look, he's becoming very volatile. He doesn't recognize he needs help. He's becoming violent with his caregiver. He's going to have to go to a memory unit. And I said, no, we're going to muddle through this, but we're not going to, have him leave his home. And my siblings did eventually go along with my wish to keep my father at home. We did whatever needed to be done in terms of getting help. And I capitulated too. I mean, one of the things that they felt very frustrated with me was that I would always tell my father the truth, even if it upset him. I said, but I don't want to lie to him, both because lying is not a good thing, and it's not a dignified thing to do. This was my perception, both as a doctor, but also as a loving son. But also, he was getting paranoid. So I said, if you lie to him, eventually he's going to find out, or he's going to realize we're lying to him, and it's going to further his distrust. So there was a lot of push-pull over that. And eventually, I came around to understanding my siblings' point of view, but really the point of view of a lot of caregivers in this country and the world, where this sort of paradigm I was subscribing to is called reality orientation. You bring the person with dementia into reality, your reality. Dad, mom died.
Yeah, when you would ask for your mom.
Yeah. Dad, mom died. No matter how much we talk about it, she's not coming back. And I thought it was important for him to understand that. But my brother would say things like, mom's on a plane, she's coming, she'll come tomorrow. Well, can you call her? Well, no, I can't call her, she's on the plane.
Sort of white remarks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took a long time for me to come around to what I think is really a commonsensical stance, which is you don't want to tell someone the truth if it causes them deep anguish. And there's a sort of larger conception of dignity that I eventually came around to, that dignity is not just telling the truth, but it's meeting someone where they are in their own minds and their own lives. And eventually I came around to the white lies. I came to appreciate that lying is different when you're doing it for your own benefit or if you're doing it for someone else's benefit.
Right. It was a way to just keep dad where he was.
Very much, yeah.
So I want to continue talking about your father, but I also understand that you write a lot about doctor's appointments that were happening around this time, conversations you were having with his care team, but also the information that you yourself were learning about care and treatment for Alzheimer's, especially at the stage that your dad was at this particular point. I was surprised to hear that you wrote that in terms of treatment, not a lot has changed since the early 20th century. Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, I think people have been excited in recent years about news of various drugs. Can you just tell us where we are at in terms of treatment?
Sure. I'll say people should be excited because I think the field is changing. The problem with dementia treatment, the problem with treating really any disease where you don't know the cause, is it's hard to identify the target for treatment. With Alzheimer's, for the longest time, the thought was that it's misfolded proteins called amyloid and tau. So drugs were developed to get rid of amyloid, and they were studied, tested, and they didn't work. And so the whole amyloid hypothesis came into question. More recently, there have been 3 drugs, but really 2, I would say, that have reasonably robust data. They're monoclonal antibodies. One is called lecanemab, one is called donanemab, but they are very effective in ridding the brain of amyloid. And for the first time, there are signals suggesting that the decline in cognition in Alzheimer's is slowed by these drugs first time. Now, is it a major change? No. Are there side effects? Yes. There can be brain bleeding, and you also have to target patients very, very early before brain cells die, because once brain cells and synapses die, it's very hard to regenerate them. So there are questions about how early patients should be started. How do you know that someone is developing Alzheimer's when they don't have symptoms? Should everyone who's elderly be started on these drugs? Obviously not. So there are big questions, but at this point I would say that Alzheimer's doesn't equal amyloid, but amyloid is definitely playing a role. We have anti-amyloid drugs that are now starting to show a positive signal. We need to develop drugs that now attack some of these other potential causes. So the field is in flux, but I would say for the first time in my lifetime, there are some positive signals, and there's reason for hope.
And as you mentioned, though, the drugs that we're
Now,
hearing about most recently are
real quick,
really aimed at early stage, we've been able to detect early stage Alzheimer's. And
there he is. Good, I turn that off. Real quick. So I know this video will, this video is going to be a good video and stuff like that. But I'm going to be doing a room video today. And just so everybody can keep that in mind, when this video comes out, whenever I say that, it's probably going to be years from now when I say it. If people re-watch this video, that's why I'm saying it now, basically. Anyway, let's speak to Hape. Hape, how you doing?
At last, there you are. Now all we have to do is keep our mouths shut and see what happens. But one thing's as certain as the sun rising in the morning. The people in this town love rumors and headlines. Soon everyone will be talking about the glowing object from another world. I'm sure of that. And all thanks to your help. Good job. Listen, to be honest, I'm pretty satisfied with what I've done with my life. My career has been rock solid, but I also think it's high time that I retire. My business is small, but in good shape, and it needs someone to pick up the reins. And I honestly can't think of anyone better for this job than you. So, what do you say? I'd stick around for a while to help until you're on your feet. Deal?
Deal. Get the traffic.
And from what I've been reading, I think that this understanding has led to a lot of people doing genetic testing and trying to do early screenings. So what can genetic testing tell us about Alzheimer's risk? I wonder if this is something that you've been thinking about, especially with your dad having Alzheimer's and your mom having Parkinson's.
Sure. I think a lot of my reactions to my father was worry that what was happening to him was going to happen to me too. Sure. And
Stop right there so we can talk to Hape one more time. Hape, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? Say it now, please. Thank you.
Congratulations on running your very own company. If you want it to succeed, you should stop by regularly and familiarize yourself with everything. I recommend you first take a close look at the upgrade levels and start meeting the goals listed there. It's the only way to qualify for the big jobs in town, so you can someday leave this place behind. You should also take a look at the vehicle fleet and the finances to see what it takes to manage your construction equipment and get an overview of your financial situation. But the most important thing is fulfilling the orders. It's the only way you can make money to keep expanding your business and afford new construction equipment. So get to it. Running a company isn't an easy job, but the best way to start is by getting started. The rest will work itself out. Trust me, and I'm still here for you.
This is the company. Yeah. Read that if you want. Oh. X. Here's where they are. Alright, so, construction machines. I need 3 of them. Okay. Oh, okay. So, we move up. Oh, here we go. That's map. These are jobs I can do. We'll start with the house one, and then we'll work our way up there. Okay, that's a floor. Okay. Now there's a dealership in town, so I'm at home right now. I want to get another construction machine. There's one there, and then there's 2 there. I'm going. There we go. What I'm just going to kind of place all the construction machines in one area. So this is for this backhoe. It can just stay right there. Yeah. Well, anyways, that's yeah. Yeah, that's it, everybody. I think before we go, let's get on the map. And here. Because we can buy a truck if we ever need to. Somewhere in here. There it is. Yeah, we can buy a truck if we ever need it. Now, as far as cat vehicles go, that is I don't know. Speaking of which, here are all the cat vehicles. So, I think that's red. That's actually how much it is. So, I tried doing this a long time ago, and I think I might still do it actually. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of go this way. So we're gonna get this. We're gonna get enough money for it so we can get a dump truck, and then same with this, and then this is the soil compactor. Now this is a thing I don't know about a dump truck. That's the only thing I'm relatively concerned about. Now, for big jump, now, I mean, maybe if I want to use a dump truck, but I'm not sure yet. Yes, let's go to the showroom. So, yeah. Okay, this thing can transport bulk materials. Oh yeah, we wouldn't be able to purchase. We could rent it. We can purchase. So yeah, I want this. Because even with a dump truck, same thing. So like, I'm gonna see if Mama can get my comments up to comment section up today. Comment section up today. So you guys can actually tell me about this, so I know for next episode. Because I really need it. I want to buy this. I know that. I want to buy this. I know that. I want to buy, this. But I have like 2 dumb trucks. And actually, you know what? I didn't think about this. Articulated dump trucks would be good because the front part of it can move. So an articulated dumper would actually be good for like city stuff, probably. Or maybe just jobs where I need it. Okay, so yeah, we'll get that when we get enough money, and then we'll get this, and then we'll get this, and then we'll get this. And then we'll get, actually we already have that. And then we'll get this. And then we'll get, we already have that. And then we'll get this. The reason I'm getting another steamroller is because this one's made for asphalt. The other one is made for soil. And then we'll get this because I think it'll be better for small areas. This, and then this is one for larger areas. And then after that, I'm thinking of the concrete pump. That's a concrete mixer pump. I think I would buy the concrete mixer truck pump. Probably the semi. And I definitely buy a tower crane. Definitely a mobile crane. Would I buy 2 mobile cranes or just one? maybe I would buy a smaller one. Buy a tower crane, whatever this thing is. I would definitely buy an asphalt dumper and a service vehicle. I definitely at some point would buy a trailer. Definitely a truck. Pickup, which actually we could buy that. How much money do we have? Oh! Oh, holy sweet! We could actually buy this right now. But do I want to? That's the thing. Do I want to buy that truck? No one's getting mad if I buy that truck unless I just sell it. Because what could we use for? We couldn't really use this for anything, could we? No. Functions. This thing has 0 power. Yes, it's fun and cool. You can drive it around and stuff. I wouldn't use it for anything, probably. Because this is more of a construction game. Yes, trucks are good for getting home and getting back to the yard and stuff, but you basically just be driving your own. You can just be driving your construction machines, probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Should we? Should we not? But you see, a mechanic costs a lot of money. I'm trying to think about this logically the best I can. Because, again, like I said, this truck is, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be good. But let me know if I should buy the pickup. Pickups are good, I guess. But what do I use it for besides maybe getting to work or back? But I basically just be doing that with my construction vehicles, more or less. I definitely will just be doing that with my construction vehicles. So, or I could just drive it around to certain places, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know. What would I use it for? I wouldn't use it for anything besides maybe driving around to the job site or something. If we're being realistic here, what I honestly could do, and hear me out on this, is I could use that to, say, I could use that to drive to work, drive to the construction site, or maybe I could, maybe if I had like other workers working for me, I could buy this truck and then I could like drive it around and stuff. You know, maybe transport people in it. I don't know, should I buy a truck or not? You know what? I'm gonna wait. I'll do that. Instead, I'm gonna go and how much is this? Oh really? How much is that? Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna actually. Oh, how many do we have? And the trailer is about 40. Goodbye, the tractor is pretty long and probably. Yeah, I could do. Ooh. Ooh. That was so good. Well, I do like the idea of this. You know what? I'm gonna buy this because this will help me a lot, probably. Definitely, this will help me a lot. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. Well, we got another vehicle at least. So that's good. That'll be useful. Definitely, that'll be useful. To the dump truck. Yeah, we couldn't. Wow, we wouldn't have enough money for that dump truck. Okay, so that works. And then we'll buy that eventually. But I want to buy the trailer next, since I do have some money still. I want to buy the trailer next because that'll be really handy for when I get vehicles that are not roadworthy. For instance, you know, like the bulldozer or one of the steamrollers or the road equipment, basically, and the excavators, the cement truck, the front loader, the backhoe loader, the dump truck, the articulator dumper, maybe not the scraper, the crane truck, the 6-man truck. Those are all roadworthy. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I can't wait. So let's go. How do we... Oh, yeah. Can I look at it again? Goals. Here we go. Skills. No. It's not skills. didn't know I had a warehouse. Sweet. Okay, so how do I get to... Guess here. You know how to go here, right? Yeah. Company. Oh, I don't have money from you, do I? Ow! It's like PS5. Ow, that hurt. Yeah, mechanic number one. We're gonna wait for you, apparently. Okay. Well, that's my bunny app. I guess. I thought you could always like switch for like do like vehicle. Here we go, vehicle fleet. Enter, and then we're gonna drive to our destination. Oh, this thing's gonna be sweet, man. Let's get a trailer for it. I think we'll be ready to go. Jake this. And take this truck back to our yard. That is. Oh, sweet. $50. Here, let's put that in the video. Oh my god. Yep. Well, there we go. Probably have a trailer with this truck too, so I'll probably have to find that out. But hey. See you in the next one. Love you and thank you for watching episode 4.